I'm Cheree Ramirez, the host of Community Unity by Children's Services Council of Martin County, located at the 10th Street Studio. We are back at the 10th Street Studio for another episode of Community Unity, and I have special guests with me, Jenny Fields from the Martin County Property Appraiser Office.
Hi, thank you, Cheree, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here because it is that time of year again.
Yeah.
Where people are hustling and bustling in our offices trying to prepare for trim. But before we get into that, I just wanted to have the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better and your role at the Martin County Property Appraiser Office. So Jenny, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Stuart, Florida. I have a twin sister, and she's actually working at the tax collector's office in St. Lucie County. So for about as many number of years, we've both been working in local government, and I'm married. I have two daughters. I'm an empty nester, so they're grown and gone now. And I actually started working at the property appraiser's office probably when I was 16 years old. I was in and out of high school, not in and out of high school, but you work half a day and you work part-time. And so I printed maps like on the old ammonia Mylar machines, and so I did that, and then I actually went full-time right after I graduated high school. So I've actually been working at the property appraiser's office. This is my 35th year.
Your entire life.
Yeah, my entire adult life, yes. And but yeah, that's a little about me. I love what I do. Yeah.
But you've not always been the property appraiser. You were just recently voted in. What year was that?
2020.
2020.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just finished I'm finishing up my first term.
Wow.
And so I've only been property appraiser for 4 years, but I've been in the office for 35.
Okay. So tell me, you transition, so obviously there's room to grow, and you must really love what you do.
I do.
Can you tell me your why?
Yeah. So I guess I could probably spit out my why, but to understand those 3 decades, starting out as a kid out of high school, I didn't look at this job like this was going to be my career, and but I started out as entering deeds, and that kind of evolved in learning how to run legal descriptions and do title searches. So I had that whole aspect, and then eventually I kind of moved into planning, and I would work with each department and planning their workloads and do time trending and do kind of projects to find out how many sale inspections we could do in a day, and it helped each department plan their department workload. It would help us budgeting and things like that. So I was in the planning stage, and then I kind of grew. A few years into that, I kind of got into the quality control aspect of it, which I was so passionate about. I loved looking things up. I taught myself SQL, so I could run my own reports and pull my own data.
So is SQL a software?
SQL is SQL reporting, where you can write scripts and pull information out of tables, and I loved that. I loved working on the computer, but I loved quality control because for me it was helping other people be more efficient, and I loved efficiency. I loved everything about efficiency, and so but I would help everybody set up those QC reports so that they could do it on their own and not wait on somebody else. It was all about making their lives easier, and then I kind of moved into process improvement. Loved that. I kind of took some Six Sigma classes and learned all about lean and waste and things like that. So then it was, again, working with every department on how to be more lean and how to be more efficient. And so I think with every contribution over 3 decades, Laurel had a lot of confidence in me. She was the former property appraiser. Her and I worked together for 30 years, but she saw something in me, and it was like it seemed like every promotion I got, I just got more confident, and I was just really coming into my own. And it was 30 years later, I was her chief deputy, and when she said, I'm going to retire, and I wasn't a political person, and so I was really green when it came to that. But, for me, I took it to God, and I talked to my family, and I just had an overwhelming peace about it. And I didn't, we worked too hard for that office. And it's not just me, it's our whole team. It's the team that Laurel and I helped put together, and it was the processes and the efficiencies. And honestly, at the end of the day, I just didn't want to see someone else come in that didn't care and have so much invested as I did.
Yeah.
And it was my baby. And I'm like, well, it's going to either be me or, that's it. So that's why I end up running. And I won. And
I think it was a mutual contact of ours, Dr. Madigan, Justin Madigan,
yes.
who introduced us.
Yes.
And I can't remember, it was during your campaigning, and I can't remember what I was doing at that time.
We were in leadership together.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So you were a graduate of Martin County Leadership. What's your class?
30 strong, yes.
Okay, that was all during COVID.
Yes, we had the COVID class. Yeah, yes. That was a whole thing, trying to do a campaign during COVID. I didn't know anything about it anyway, but doing it with COVID, and then, so it was interesting.
Very interesting, I'm sure. And they just had, actually tomorrow, I guess, not tomorrow.
The meet and greet, right?
The meet and greet is coming up, right?
For class
and then
34.
One of our employees, Jennifer Carter, is in this year's class.
Nice.
So
Very nice.
You might know who she is from. She's in our accounting department.
Okay.
So our
I'm sure we probably
team.
have. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. Like 35 years of experience and knowledge with Jenny Fields at the Property Appraiser's office. So you know she knows what she's talking about. So going on to the work that you guys do. I know education is a huge piece of your job.
Yes.
And your drive to be able to help Martin County residents understand their billing for their homes, their property taxes, the values of their homes. So can you go into a little bit of some of your educational campaigns you've been doing throughout
Well,
Martin
one
County?
of the things when I first took office was the community outreach, as you know, was going to be key for me. I was going to take it in every different direction because for me, so many people will buy the biggest asset they will ever own. And from the moment they leave that closing, they will take that document, that packet of information, put it in a file cabinet and never look at it again.
Yes.
And that's where it ends. So they don't know anything about property tax exemptions, or they don't know what a trim notice is. They don't know what happens when the bill comes out. They don't know what happens if they change their marital status, and what's going to happen to your exemption is if you do. And there's just so much that is that affects you, and property taxes. There's constitutional amendments they're going to see on the ballot, and most people don't know how that's going to affect them. So for me, we probably average about 40 presentations a year. So that's thousands and thousands and thousands of people that I get in front of just so I can educate, I can talk to. And depending on where we are in the year, so like this year, most of my presentations are the trim notice.
Yes.
What does this mean to you? Why is this so important? And I really, hammer that. Usually in September, we'll talk about calamity. What does that mean for your property value and your taxes? Because there's legislation that will protect you if your home is destroyed or things like that people don't know. And so again, in the early part of the year, it's all about exemptions and when to apply. And so anytime I can teach you or have a light bulb go off if I'm talking to you, anytime I'm out there talking to anyone, if they go, wow, I learned something today, that, like, to me, that just makes my day. And
you connected the dots for me for our family and our property that my grandparents have, and my grandmother, or not my grandmother, my mom, sorry mom, is the trustee. And so you helped us figure out what we needed to do to be able to ensure a safe and easy transition.
And most people don't know that the way you hold title can greatly affect your exemptions. And so a lot of times they'll do something with their title or file a deed and they don't realize the consequence. And so it's connecting those dots. And so a lot of, and there's topics. So our website, one of the things we did is, not to mention we're on almost every platform of social media. We post daily. We have probably 30 to 40 educational videos, and I try to keep them less than 3 minutes. But any topic you can possibly imagine are under the educational videos on my website. We have handouts, which are single-page PDFs, because I don't know if anybody's like me, but I'm like a picture is worth 1,000 words. I would 10 times rather see an illustration to teach me something than I would read a 3-page document.
Yeah.
So these single page, we gear them to where we try to send a message. They can just print a single page off. But there's probably 40 of those out there, and we make up these handouts. So again, it's just we want people to come to our website. That's our storefront. Everything's on the front page, and it's just all about education for all property owners and business owners.
Speaking of your website, can you tell me what your website is?
Sure. It's www.pa.martin.fl.us.
You hear that? It's going to be in the description.
Yes,
Don't worry, with clickable links for you. So be sure to check that out in the descriptions. But also, you're able to find how much money is actually coming back to CSC, Martin County taxpayer dollars. Thank you so much for your continued support for over 35 years, because we wouldn't be able to do the work that we are able to do without the assistance of Property Appraiser and your support. So thank you. But you can go onto your website and view past trim notices to see how much is actually being allocated and dedicated to CSC.
Correct. At any given point, you like right now, if you go to our website and you look up your property, you can click trim notice. There's a little icon, and the last certified trim notice will come out. Now, as of Friday, the new ones, the 2024s, will be out there. But at any time, you will be able to view a trim notice, and all the taxing authorities are listed on the left. So Children's Services are right there, and you can just follow the bar over, and you can see the exact tax dollar that they contribute to the Children's Services. Yes.
So the trim notice is determined by the millage, correct? And then applied to the property value.
Correct. So basically, millage, trim, and we'll just start there, is truth in millage. So basically what that means is it was an act that was passed in 1980 that by law we have to send this notice, because most people, when you pay your taxes, they would pay it and they didn't know how the rate came up, who derived the rate, where did the value come from, where do my tax dollars go. So this act in 1980 was to be more transparent. And so now we mail this notice, but what happens is we certify our taxable value to every taxing authority July 1st.
Okay.
Now, each taxing authority, they know how much they need, their budgets, to operate their jurisdictions, whether it's repairing sidewalks or public safety or whatever the case may be. They all have their budget. And then depending on the taxable value that my office sets, that taxable value is multiplied times the rate that each taxing authority sets. And then so if you take my value times the rate, that's the tax dollar.
Okay.
Yeah. So that trim notice will show you the rate that, like, say for Children's Services, you set the millage rate that you need, so that based on the revenue,
which hasn't changed since 2014.
Yeah. So, but each taxing authority does that, and there's 10 different taxing authorities that will be listed that are in Martin County. Not everyone will see all 10. If you don't live in the City of Stuart, you won't see the City of Stuart's on there. You know? So it just depends on your jurisdiction and where you live. But every taxing authority that you pay into, based on your taxes, will be listed on that trim notice. So it's important that they see each one, and it's all broke down, so they'll know how much they're paying to the school board or how much they're paying to the county or things like that. They're all listed.
So you said that's mailed out. Is that the one that is sent in November?
No. So the one that's being mailed out today, so 106,000 of them are being mailed today to all property and business owners in Martin County. That is the proposed tax notice.
Okay, proposed.
It's actually short trim notice, but the long name is Notice of Proposed Property Taxes, because this is the time that everything's proposed. Literally everything on that notice is proposed. The values, so this is your time to come talk to me. If you look at that notice and your value, you don't agree with it, please, my phone number is on there. Pick up the phone and call my office. All of our appraisers will show you all the information we used to come up with your value. But let's say you have a question about the millage rate, or you have a question about the tax dollar that they're paying into. On the back side of the trim notice is all the budget hearings for every single taxing authority. It's their location, it's the time. So this is the time where they can go to those meetings, ask questions, call me, let's talk about the value. It's all proposal, because for the next 25 days, that's how long they have to question.
be able to
because
question,
eventually your budget hearings, all the taxing authorities are going to
Yep,
be
we are.
holding their budget hearings, but you're going to actually settle on a final millage.
Okay.
That will be adopted. Once that final millage is adopted, it comes back to my office. We take that final one with our final value and we certify that to the tax collector. And that's who sends out the tax bill in November. Then it's final.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the proposed part that you have time to just ask questions, be informed, go to the meetings. Yeah.
Perfect. So you heard Jenny, check your mailboxes. Make sure that you are going to actually look and review your trim notice, your proposed trim notice, and ask questions if you have questions. Because if you just bought a new house, that's a big question typically,
epic
right?
question, yeah. And usually the majority of the phone calls that we're going to start getting are going to be from everyone who purchased last year. And the reason for that is because in 2023, when they got their trim notice or when they got the bill in November of 23, because they weren't the owner on January 1 of 23, they inherit everything that the seller had. So the seller's Save Our Homes benefit, the seller's exemptions, all of that they inherited. But now in 24, this year is based on the value would be based on their sale price.
Yeah.
It's going to be their exemptions. And a lot of times what happens is if they purchased from someone, let's say that lived in their home for 30 years and had a significant Save Our Homes benefit, that's now coming off, and they might see a major sticker shock and don't understand it. So we're going to be spending a lot of time talking to these new home buyers to explain it's now set on your sale price, because we have to look at the 2023 market to determine the values that we set this year.
And so getting into that, do you as a property appraising office, do you engage in forecasting or property values?
Right. A lot of people will ask this. They'll call our office and how's the market looking? And not as typical as realtors and that industry. They know what's happening day to day to day, quarter by quarter. In the state of Florida, each property appraiser in all 67 counties, we have to value property on January 1. So if you were to take a picture of that property on January 1, we are forbidden from using any sale that occurs after January 1.
Okay.
So in order to set the value right now, which is what the bills that go out in November, those bills in November are based on a snapshot 11 months prior.
Okay.
And so in order to do that, we have to look at the 23 market. So all property appraisers in the state of Florida, we're never looking forward. We're always looking back.
Okay.
We won't even start looking at the 2024 sales until we're ready to start valuing for 2025. So forecasting is not in our
it's not
in our purview. We don't do that, and we don't even look at, like I said, we don't even look at the current data that's happening right now until next year.
So if the property values were to decrease by 5%, how would that affect the property taxes? And then would there be a surplus of revenue? And do you have any examples?
Okay, so
3-part question.
Yeah, no worries. So one of the things, and there was a benefit this year, and I'll just give you just a real quick. So overall, countywide this year, market values went up almost 6.5%, right? Well, in the last 2 years, market values have been double digits. Well, you can see it's still higher, but it's kind of leveling off a little bit. So market values went up 6.5%, and that was based on new construction and market appreciation because the sale prices are still higher than what we have the values set at. But the second thing that taxing authorities benefit from that most people don't realize is called the recapture rule. So what that is let's say, and if you don't mind, I'd like to show you an example.
Please.
So this is an example, okay, of a property that got homestead in 2020.
Okay.
And the year it got homestead, the market value was $400,000. So in the state of Florida, the year you file for your homestead exemption, your market value is locked in.
Okay.
Which means from that point forward, as long as that's your homestead exemption, your assessed value, no matter what happens with the market, your assessed value can't go up any more than 3% a year.
Okay.
So what happens over time, this is an example where market value has appreciated. If you think of the market values, right, from 2020 to today, that $400,000 home is now worth $725,000. But because they had a homestead exemption, the assessed value only reached 440. So they have this gap between the two, which is called the Save Our Homes benefit. And in this scenario, just this one property, it's $281,000 that's floating around, no one pays taxes on, right? So let's say, for example, it starts to level off. And let's say next year the 725 stays the same, or it goes down to 720 or 710 or whatever.
Like that.
What happens is your assessed is still at 440. So your assessed is still by law required to go up that incremental amount until they meet.
Oh,
Okay?
wow. Okay.
So what I mean is that so that's in that market where market values only went up 6.5%, your homestead properties, even though the market value might have gone up 2%, their assessed value is going up the full 3% because it will continue to go up. But the primary focus this year, which was the taxable value, went up 10% this year. And it was primarily due to the 10% cap. Because most people don't realize if you have homestead exemption, your assessed value can't go up any more than 3%. However, all other properties, so industrial, commercial, vacant land, they're all capped, but they're capped at 10%.
So is that like rental properties
Exactly.
as well? So
exactly. So their market value might have only gone up 5%, but their assessed value is going up the full 10. So what you said was in the future, if market values start to decline, you're probably, or all taxing authorities will probably still benefit from that increase until they meet at that point. So it could take several years before you finally start to see a reduction in the taxable value. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does make sense.
I don't know if that answered your question.
No, but very fortuitous for us to be able to know that that we're safe to be able to continue funding as well, even if there was depression of sorts.
It wouldn't happen overnight. Yeah, it wouldn't happen overnight. It wouldn't happen
but
overnight. Even if we reported next year that the market value was a decrease, primarily the taxables will still be going up because everyone right now, because we had a couple years with major market increases. I mean 25% market increases,
it's
right?
ridiculous.
So everyone's caps are so high. So even if it just starts to gradually go down, it's going to have to keep going up until it reaches.
So talking about that, I'm kind of interested in the rental aspect because I know that there have been an increase in rental costs and rental fees, and it's because those homeowners are getting that 10% increase.
Exactly.
And so they have to
pass it off
and trickle it down to the renter. So really, we don't see a potential for a decrease in that either because of the caps.
It's really going to be based on their value, and if their values are going up 10% or whatever, then their taxes are. And not only that, but the 10% properties, that cap doesn't apply to school levies. So you might have the county assessed, right, which is the cap. So it gets capped at 10%. But all school levies, they don't get that cap. So they still pay on full market value, even with the 10% cap. So,
it's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. So no wonder they're passing it down to their tenants. Yes.
You are just really a wealth of knowledge. Like, this is very eye-opening for me as well. And I like to be able to see how it all works and to be able to explain to the Martin County homeowners how it works. So if they do have those questions, they know how available your office and your staff are, and you as well. I mean, I've seen you in the community regularly, always you and your staff.
Yeah,
so.
Any given time, anyone can call our office, and you will get a human being all the time. And we literally have our customers come first. And because our job, you're our family. We work for you. And so there's not a day that goes by that you're not going to have a phone call back. you're going to get somebody, and we're going to call you back. We're going to invite you in. You never have to make an appointment. We always have staff available. We just always try to make ourselves, our books are open. You want to understand the value? Come in. We're going to show you the comps we used. We're going to show you the maps. We'll give it to you. We'll send it with you, because at the end of the day, we just want to educate, because really it's not that they're upset with their values. It's not that, yes, it's shocking sometimes when you see that, but at the end of the day, it's just explaining what we do and helping them understand that. And then a lot of times, they may not like it, but it helps for them to understand it.
Well,
and
there's other ways, to be able to offer them different exemptions to be able to help them.
There's 30 plus exemptions in the state of Florida, and most all of them, you do have to be a homesteaded property owner.
Okay.
So
that's good clarification,
right, very
as well.
And a lot of times we'll have people come in, this is their summer home, and they'll come in and they'll want to file for the widow exemption or the disabled veteran exemption or thing like that, but they don't have their residency here.
Gotcha.
So we always have to explain, you do have to be a primary residence. But once you have that homestead exemption, there's 30 plus other exemptions, like I said, that range from limited income seniors to disabled veterans to widows. And again, just seeing what we have, what's available, what you would qualify for, and we will walk you through it. We have the live chat on the website, and we have 20 operators. And if you're ever chatting with a Jenny, that's me. I'm on it all the time because I love to see the questions that are coming in. Where are they getting stuck on the website? How can we do better? Because when I'm out in the community or I'm planning a presentation or I'm adding topics to talk about, where they're getting stuck is my next handout or video or something like that.
So what are some of those frequently asked questions?
Frequently asked questions, number one, I would say is, why do I have the exact same house as my neighbor, but I'm paying 3 times as much in taxes? That's probably the number one, because it seems like everyone's going to get their trim notice and they're going to be down at the clubhouse comparing notes, right? And we always tell everybody, please don't compare taxes. Don't compare taxable value. Don't even compare assessed value. You compare market value. And the reason for that is you and I might have the exact same model, right? But you've lived there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Your assessed value has been capped, right? I'm a brand new owner. I just bought the house based on a $725,000 sale price, and I'm going to be paying $11,000, and I'm going to be comparing it to you, and you're paying $5,000.
Yes.
And they're going to be calling me like, you made an error, So that's the number one question, is just understanding it, because Florida tax laws with these assessment limitations, they're so complex. And
it goes back to this.
And it goes back to that. That's exactly right. Yeah.
So I really enjoy being able to sit down and get to know the people that are working and the leaders in the community.
Aw, that's nice.
And I just want to say thank you so much for your time with me today. I'm not a homeowner, but I was one of those renters that experienced the rent increase. So, really, your work does affect everybody who lives in Martin County.
Absolutely. Whether you're a veteran, whether you're a widow, a new home buyer, maybe you're wanting to sell, maybe you're going through a divorce and you don't understand who gets to keep this cat. There's things you need to know.Maybe you're getting married and you both have a property. Do you know that you can only have one homestead? You don't want to fall into traps which could lead to liens. And it's just, there's just so much. And we always look for opportunities. Just last year we reached out. I was in church one Sunday, as you know, we had gone to the same church. And I was in church one Sunday going, I could reach everyone in this congregation because there's so much that they all need to know.
Yeah,
and so we actually started reaching out to all the churches, like, can I come in and talk to them? And so we went to a couple of them, great organizations. And it's all about just reaching everybody we can because, like you said, we literally, you don't think, most people are like, the property appraiser, I go in there and get my homestead application, I never talk to them again. Whether because you're going to be a business owner, and we have the whole tangible personal property aspect. And like I said, maybe you want to be a agricultural business owner and you want to file for your agricultural classification. There's so much you need to know there. So yeah, we touch everybody.
Well, really, that's why I do Community Unity, is because of the education and the transparency that our whole community needs.
That's awesome.
To be able to partner with different organizations who are making a difference, who are really, truly just trying to make Martin County a better place, and to have that transparency for the resources that are available to Martin County families.
And thank you for doing this. Anyway, I mean, I think if we all, education is key. And if we're all doing this little part, thank you for what you're doing. This is amazing. And just to let anyone get a little piece of what is everybody doing. I think it's going to be an enlightenment for everybody here and how we're all connected. And I appreciate you doing it. I appreciate you inviting me here. And
and you speak passionately, so you know that you are in the right position, in the right role. And really, I just, again, thank you so much for joining me today. And if there's anything else that you might have left out or that I might have left out, please go ahead and share that with me, and I will be happy to post that in our description box.
Okay, thank you. I can't think of anything right now, but thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, you guys have a wonderful day, and thank you, Jenny, for joining me. Thank you for listening to Community Unity. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Share our information with friends and family to help spread the information on life-changing programs funded by CSCMC, made possible by the homeowners of Martin County.